All right, guys, we're back again. Another great episode of PFREI. I'm your host, Fuquan Bilal. It's going to be another great show. Oh, man, today I have a guest. It's actually a friend of mine. He's been on the podcast before, Mark Jackson from Investor Comps. Um, it's a pleasure to speak to you, man. We were just chatting a little bit um, before I press record. You're in Puerto Rico, right?
Yes.
All
Yep.
right, awesome. Yeah, he's in Puerto Rico. I'm stuck in New Jersey. The weather's beautiful here, though, I must say. It was 68 degrees here, so it's
Got
not a
that
bad. Got an
summer.
Indian summer going, so we're proud about that. We'll talk about a few things that we were just talking about before our press record, also about what's happening in the market. Things that it takes an experienced person to see that a novice won't see or be able to catch through some of the due diligence. But before we get into that, I've asked you this question before, so you're a friend of the show, but I'm going to ask it again for anybody who's new, and this may be the first time they see an interview. Why are you passionate for real estate investing?
Legacy, man. I watched my grandmother do real estate, my aunts and uncles. And so it was something that, even though I didn't understand it years ago when I was young, it was there. Even my uncles when I was in college, come on, boy, we got to go clean up an apartment. I'm like, yes, sir. And so it was something that was exposed to me. And then once I understood it, it just got in my blood, and eventually I became a real estate appraiser. So it was almost to the dynamic that the seeds were planted for what I was going to do later on. And once I discovered appraising, it really gave me a sense of it gives you just a unique perspective when it comes to analyzing and looking at deals in any market area that the average investor doesn't have as their DNA. They're going to have to rely on someone else to tell them the value or get data from somewhere else. Whereas an appraiser, you've got that data and you know how to access it regardless of what market area that you're looking at deal. So that's kind of why I love real estate.
Yeah, so I was saying earlier you have like a two-sentence bio, and I love it. So I'm going to read it real quick. So Mark Jackson, formerly known as MJ, has become the go-to valuation specialist for people who want to achieve more in their real estate investing business. Now, Mark, every time we're out and we have the opportunity to share the stage at an event, you always use this term, and I love it. It's valuation first approach. Now, just what you just mentioned, becoming was an appraiser and pretty much going through that valuation first strategy, the
Yeah.
due diligence. Oh man, it's like you're 10 steps ahead of everybody with due diligence, right? Because you want to understand markets like by zip codes, by blocks, and certain things. You would go to an appraiser who kind of knows his story and go, hey, what do you think this thing is worth? They can actually go and do a cost to cure or different types of valuation. So let's talk about that a little bit. I know you have, again, guys, you go to investorcomps.com and go check that out. But let's talk about that a little bit. That valuation first approach that you preach every time we go out. It's stuck in my head every time I see your faces. Valuation first approach.
Well, see, the very essence of it is this: is that whether you're in especially related to single family residential or small multifamily, you're always going to be in that process, no matter what lead source it is. It could be a short sale, it could be pre-foreclosure, it could be a HUD foreclosure, it could be a subject to deal, it could be a probate deal, maybe a sale from trust and family. At some point, no matter what, you're going to turn around and say, how much is this property worth? And the real question should be, how much should I pay for it? And then what can I remarket it for? So you want to know your best acquisition value and after repair value simultaneously. And that is the dynamic of taking a valuation first approach, because a deal, you can manage location, you can manage the condition of the property, you can do all kinds of stuff. But it's knowing the numbers on that transaction without having to rely on someone else to tell you what they are. With the way we do it, investor comps and inside the community, that gives you just that feeling of confidence and sense of control that you're going to be successful on a deal.
Great stuff. Now let's talk about the quality of a product, right? When you go in there and you're doing your due diligence, so we were just talking about this offline, that you saw some
Yeah.
opportunities that looked beautiful on the outside, right? They had all of the fixtures, they had everything in place, but when you
Yep.
kind of looked under the hood, the OEM parts wasn't there, as they say. So, electrical, plumbing, all that stuff wasn't intact. So with some words of wisdom that you can give somebody new, whether you have an investor who's buying a turnkey or something like that, what should they be looking for if the numbers pan out, right? The numbers pan out, I can buy it for this, I can sell it for that. But what are some of the things that you look for when you're doing due diligence on a property that make the value really stands, what really holds its value?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things that go in terms of that question. I mean, even if just the difference between, is it a house on a slab foundation? Is it on a crawl space foundation? Is it on a basement foundation? There's three different things you look for in each of those circumstances. One thing I like to encourage people to do in their due diligence, especially on an asset that needs to be improved, as compared to just looking straight out, look up. Look up at the ceiling line, look up at the crown molding, look up at the door frames at the top. And what you're looking for are any signs of settlement or cracking, or in particular, if in fact there might be some water staining. That means that there's some water intrusion from the roof. So many folks I work with, they look this way and they look this way, but they don't look up. Make that a habit, whether you're doing it from a distance or if you're just requiring someone to take video for a project that you're doing remotely, because we teach how to invest anywhere from anywhere. Make sure they're panning that iPhone, that camera up to the ceiling and capturing not just what's at eye level, but those things that can get overlooked on a deal when it comes to due diligence.
Yeah, that's a good one, because you can see cracks in the seams if the property settle, and you can see that foundation issues. People always, you're right, go straight and look forward. Just to pivot over to the climate that we're in right now in the marketplace, like how is the increase of interest rates affecting investors? So you see, like, outside looking in, right? Not pertaining to, like, not anything what you're doing, just other investors that what is some of the feedback that you're hearing out there, the chat in the streets, that the current climate is affecting them in what way? And then how can they pivot from that to be successful?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the main thing we're doing right now is you can't fight the Fed. I mean, that phrasing came out back in 2008 on the last mortgage crisis, where what is the Fed trying to do? They're raising interest rates so that they can reduce inflation, with the caveat, and we have to keep our eyes wide open, that we risk recession or potentially depression. The other side of it is, at some point, they're going to talk about reducing interest rates to stimulate the economy, but then we wind up with the potential that, one is we could have our currency impacted, and secondarily, inflation can go into a hyper status. So right now, if you're speculating in real estate or speculating in the markets, that's nearly not the space you want to be in. Everyone that I'm engaging with and the work that I'm doing, we're in it for the long haul. There's opportunities now because interest rates are up and prices are somewhat adjusting, as well as deals being on the market longer. You're able to get a better deal that's going to allow you to do long-term wealth development or deploy capital in an asset that you know is going to pay you through passive income. So those are the things that we're getting in terms of watching what the Fed is going to do, how that impacts specific market areas, because you can't say it impacts the United States the same way. Each and every neighborhood, city, county, zip code is going to be different. But then also making sure that the time and effort you put in as an active investor or a passive investor really garners you the return that you want, by making sure that you're in it for the long haul, not just quick transactions, because the market just isn't really going to help you produce well in the times that we're in right now.
So if you're a passive investor, should you be expecting a lower distribution, or you should lower yield annually, or how do you play that? Because let's say, because of the climate right now, things that you were investing that you were making a 10, now you can only make an 8 or 7. Some people frown upon that and go, hey, I can't make this, but because of the climate we're in, what's your thoughts on that?
It really is based on the operator and the market area that they're in. I mean, there are market areas that are continuing to benefit from inflation, therefore increase income for that passive investor. There's other market areas where it does make sense. The terms are going to be a little bit different, but you're still talking about what, 8, 9, 10% in the relationships that we know, which is still far better than someone keeping money in a savings account. So every investor gets to pick and choose, and they look at the relationships of the people that they work with. So market area will dictate it, but I still wouldn't sit on the sideline. There's really good deals out there, whether you're going to make 8%, 9%, 10% on a transaction.
That's awesome. Let's jump over to Puerto Rico now, because I know you're doing a lot of stuff over there. Let's speak to some of the stuff you're doing over there. Is it all rental, or are you doing any fix and flips, or a combination of both?
Now, everything we're doing is specifically focused on rental property. There is a need and a desire for affordable single-family housing that is quite sustainable and in good condition. We all know that to some degree, there are still remnants of Hurricane Maria with assets, with families that had mortgages on a home and that were homeowners and weren't able to maintain that. There's other assets, unfortunately, that were damaged or just weren't able to be restored. So we're working with a number of different vendors and agents and agencies. I just got a list from First Bank, one of the 3 primary banks here, that is all of their REO assets that are both single family condos and some small multifamily. And the people here, these US citizens that have been able to maintain their culture, really value having family and in a home that is sustainable with, good plumbing, good electricity, but they take a lot of pride in their own home ownership. Here, we don't have to put in a refrigerator. We don't have to put in a range. We don't have to put in a dishwasher. Those are things those families and residents are typically just accustomed to bringing themselves. Let me tell you, Puerto Ricans can cook some really good meals too. But in terms of what we're doing, in my company, the real estate development side is America's Discount Home Deals. Inside the company, we refer to it as a different heart's desire. And that really does speak to the clients that we want to serve in the single family affordable space so that they can have the type of home that they can get that sense of pride and ownership, that they want to take really good care of it, that they want to be there for a long period of time. But on the other side, we make sure that we're communicating with them and addressing and providing the type of home that you or I would want to live in, that type of dynamic. So those are the things we're doing here. I just went and looked at 4 new assets, 12 doors within those assets, and just a great opportunity. Some of them were vacant, but again, a family that's older mom and the son, and they're just ready to transition. Great opportunity for us to help them make that transition while providing, again, more assets out there to the market area for rentals.
Awesome. And in the US, you want to speak to some of the markets that you're in the US, and it's pretty much turnkey situation. You're buying, you're holding on for long term and then selling them off after a few years. But what market is that? I know you're in Georgia doing some stuff in Georgia. Is it at Florida also? Where are you? Where else?
Yeah, so we're in Metro Atlanta, Metro Tampa, Sarasota, St. Pete. We're in Northwest Indiana. We do serve the Detroit market, and then we're right in the Darlington and Florence corridor in South Carolina. I really like all those market areas, mainly because they're substantially landlord friendly as far as the engagement, and that holding provides for appreciation. We just sold 2 assets that we acquired in 2019 in the Sarasota market, actually creating our own comparables now. Had tenants in there when they didn't renew in the spring. Perfect opportunity to renovate those properties. We acquired them in April of 2019. I was going to say 1900. Wow, 2019. We acquired for $89,900. And both of those sold for over 100% of their value. One was $232,000, and one a little bit smaller square footage, $190,000. And we earned interest return all along the way, cash flow. Then was able to do renovations on those that are very modest. I mean, about $27,000 for each one, and then was able to harvest substantially. So really look at being in market areas that allow good appreciation, but also working class areas that will cash flow during the whole period.
Yeah, what I like, and correct me if I'm wrong, about the program that you have, you help tenants or residents, as I call them, transition into home ownership.
Yes.
You want to speak to that a little bit?
It really is one of the things that we enjoy so very, very much. Yes, we have any number of assets where they're purely rentals, but then we're able to engage with clients almost to the point of giving them first right of refusal, but welcome them into a property for about a 24-month lease option, engaged in a training program where they literally can get their credit together, their capital reserves, their own little money, 6, 7 months off to the side, and then they can actually transition into home ownership. Now, candidly, we're probably looking at actually extending a few folks because the debt to income ratio with higher interest rates is having its impact. But there's still very, very good residents treating those homes like it is their own and continue to cash flow even as they bide a little more time transitioning into home ownership. But that's the market that we're in, and we because of the way we acquire the right way, knowing and having that feeling of confidence and sense of control that we're going to make a profit when we buy that transaction. It gives us leverage to be able to work with a client if they need a little bit more time.
I love it. Creating win-win solutions. I love
Yes,
it. And
yes.
that part's hit home when you take a regular person who is accustomed to renting and transition them over to home ownership, help them repair their credit, get on their feet, and exit. So it's a win for them, and it's a win for you and your investors as well. So I love that, man. It's always great having you on the show. I really appreciate it. We just launched our season 2. Actually, I say season 2 because I think I did about 106 episodes, and then I took like maybe a 9-month break. I don't know if it's that long, maybe 7 months or 9 months, whatever it was. And I was like, oh man, I got to get back into doing podcasts. And I like it because I learned so much. I get to speak to, all my friends and learn a few things. So it's great. So yeah, let's just give the guests an opportunity to reach out to you if you want to plug some information, and anything else before we end the show.
Yeah, one thing we get excited about helping folks do virtual investing or becoming a virtual investing pro. So we have a program at Investor Comps called VIP Plus. You can find that at investorcomps.com, VIP-plus, VIP-PLUS, really kind of walking you through how we engage folks to get that feeling of confidence and sense of control. But more than that, even as we have an opportunity to serve your listeners through Quan, I want to congratulate you on knocking out that first triathlon, man. I know it was kind of interesting getting out there in open water and doing the swim, but you got it done, man. I am so very, very proud of you.
Thanks, man. That was very challenging. I'm down for the count right now because I have I don't know if it's sprained meniscus. I just got an MRI, so we're gonna see what's going on. But my left knee I can only swim with the buoy now. I can't do any running, any biking. It's been like that now for probably about 5 weeks. So I just got back in the water like 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. I love just swimming with the buoy, like you told me in the very beginning. Just swim with the buoy, and I was hard headed. I wanted to kick and do everything else, but now I'm learning how to breathe and doing some other stuff by just swimming with the buoy. Got me in the moment. So I wish I would have listened to that in the beginning. I probably have been further in my swimming, but now that I'm forced to do it, it's helping me get my breath up. I can actually swim a whole lap without breathing, like 25 yards from the.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
you are
Trying to get
coming along, man.
trying to get my breaths up. So it's great. Thanks for the tip. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a plum pleasing pleasure, as Les Brown would say. Another great episode of PFREI, Passion Investing. I'm your host, Fuquan Bilal. MJ is on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in.